Are you ready for the second installment of a wartime breakfast, lunch and dinner?
Oh, well, if I must, I must.
Hi everyone, my name's Jake. Welcome to the Kitchen Scrap, where I'm currently challenging myself to learn to survive on British World War II rations for an entire year.
Yeah, that sort of thing is so horrid.
Okay, first of all, can I just say, wow. The response to the first episode of A Wartime Breakfast, Lunch and Dinner has been absolutely phenomenal. Far exceeded my expectations. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. We have quite a few new people that have jumped on board the Kitchen Scrap train, so welcome aboard. So at this stage, I think it's pretty safe to say that you guys enjoyed the Wartime Breakfast, Lunch and Dinner series. So we may as well continue with it for the rest of my 1 year challenge, which actually works out great for me because it gives me a clear structure moving forward. Now, there were lots and lots of truly wonderful comments, and I do apologize. I'm normally on top of replying to everybody in a timely fashion, but this week I am so freaking stretched for time, so it is taking me a little bit longer than usual. So please bear with me. I will do my best to reply to everyone just as soon as I am able. So let's crack on with the second episode of A Wartime Breakfast, Lunch and Dinner.
Oh, look. Another glorious morning. Makes me sick.
Alright, it's breakfast time. I'm already on my second cup of tea, so I've had a chance to wake up a little bit first. Cheers! Now, for breakfast this morning, we're having toast. I know what you're all thinking. Really, Jake? Toast for breakfast?
Groundbreaking.
But you know me by now. I come with an asterisk. It's what we're putting on the toast that makes it interesting. Well, I hope so anyway. So let us go back in time a bit when I actually did all the prep for this. Now, before we can make our toast for breakfast tomorrow, I need to make some bread. I am fresh out, so I'm just gonna smash out a couple of loaves right now. Now, a lot of you will already know that I am making my own wartime loaves this year. Actually, I have a whole video dedicated to the bread where I tested 3 wartime loaf recipes, and whichever one tasted the best was the one that I was going to be making for the rest of the year. So if you're interested to see which loaf I'm making, I'll link the video below. Now, in my 6-month summary video, I mentioned that I'd reduced my weekly sugar ration from 8 ounces to 3 ounces a week because I'd gone back to having honey in my tea. Now, after I posted that video, quite a few of you suggested that I should try making parsley honey. So that's what we're going to do. Now, the recipe for this can be found in
Marguerite Patton's Feeding the Nation.
The recipe is quite simple, but we're going to need a ton of sugar for this one. For this recipe, you will need 5 ounces of parsley, including the stalks. For me, that worked out to be exactly 2 bunches from the supermarket. 1.5 pints of water, a pound of sugar. Now, I may be stretching my liberties a bit too far here, but because I've been sticking to approximately 3 ounces of sugar per week for the last 3 or 4 months, I kind of have a little bit of a reserve, but it's not lost on me that the whole point of reducing my sugar ration was because I was having honey in my tea again. But we're using the sugar to make honey. At least that's how I'm justifying it. And last but not least, half a teaspoon of vinegar. Now, I'm sure that has a purpose, but half a teaspoon seems like an awfully small amount. I'm actually really excited to try this one. So let's get cooking. Okay, so I've chopped up all the parsley. Just gonna chuck it in the pot. Now, the recipe states we have to add 1.5 pints of boiling water. So I've just boiled this earlier. Give this a bit of a stir. Now we just have to boil this until it reduces to 1 pint, then we're going to strain it. This should yield 1 pound of parsley honey. Okay, I think that's reduced enough. It's been on the stove for about 20 minutes, so now we're going to strain it. I'm just using one of these nut bags to strain it, which you use for making your own oat milk. And with any luck, we should have a pint of liquid. I think we're going to be right on the pint. We're slightly under a pint at the moment, but I reckon if I squeeze that, I could definitely get some more liquid out of it. But it's boiling hot at the moment. I'm not sure how to do that. That was a bad idea. I'm just gonna call it close enough for now, but I don't want to waste all of this parsley, so once it cools down a little bit, I'm just gonna chuck it in my stock bag and whack it in the freezer. Okay, we're back on the stove, and now we need to add a pound of sugar, which I've measured out here. That's a whole lot of sugar. Just gonna add that in. Now we just need to boil this until it turns into a thick syrup. The recipe estimates this should take about 20 minutes. Then we'll add our half a teaspoon of vinegar and it's done. So I'll see you in 20 minutes. Alright, so it's been boiling away for 20 minutes. Now it's time to add half a teaspoon of vinegar. give that a little bit of a stir. It's definitely thickened up, but apparently once we pour it into a jar and cover it, it should gel overnight. So as much as I would love to taste test this right now, it's far too hot, so we're just going to have to wait till tomorrow morning's breakfast. Just pour this into our little jar. Perfect. Now, without having tasted this, the only thing I can really say about this at the moment is...
It's oozy and it's green. Ew. Sorry.
Although I guess it's not really green, is it? It's quite a nice golden color, so we're just going to pop the lid on and put this aside till tomorrow. So we've got our pot of parsley honey. Now I actually made this 2 nights ago and I left it on my windowsill. We're in the thick of winter here in Melbourne, but even after that, it was still quite thin and syrupy. So that night I whacked it in the fridge, which I don't think is a necessary step, but the recipe did say it would gel up and I wanted to see what that would be like. And as you can see, it has certainly gelled up. What was I thinking? Honestly, I could have been much worse. I still haven't tasted this yet, so let's give it a crack. Now I would like to taste it on its own first. Oh, it is very gelatinous. Just gonna try a little bit here. Doesn't smell like anything. That's really interesting. That's very naughty. It doesn't taste like parsley at all. It basically just tastes like treacle. Let's try some on some toast. Scrape a very thin layer of margarine. And I'm just going to actually spoon a little bit of this on. Since I've taken it out of the fridge, it's definitely starting to turn into a syrup again. I mean, let's face it, guys. I'm literally having treacle on toast for breakfast. As nice as this might be, this is not a breakfast of champions. Treacle on toast, here I come. You know what? When you have it on toast with a little bit of margarine or butter, it actually tastes more like honey. That's quite nice. However, this is not really something I would recommend eating for breakfast every day. You have none of the health benefits of actual honey. It's basically just sugar on toast. It is nice, but this is something I would probably turn to cap off the evening as a nice little dessert or something. And now that we have all of this parsley honey, I think I'm just going to use this as a sweetener for baking rather than putting it on my toast. Glad I tried it though, as I was very curious.
What about breakfast?
You've already had it.
We've had one, yes. What about second breakfast?
So it's time for a second breakfast, the recipe of which is coming from
Eating for Victory.
Now I came across a recipe for a cheese pudding, which I thought sounded simply delectable. For this recipe, you will need 2 eggs. Now it does say reconstituted in brackets. I don't have any powdered eggs, but as most of you will already know, I typically don't take my egg ration. I haven't used any eggs in weeks, so I've actually got a little stockpile. They were entitled to 1 a week back then. Didn't always mean they would get them, but that was the general standard. 2 eggs, half a pint of milk, 2 to 3 ounces of grated cheese. Now, just like last week, I don't have 3 ounces of cheese, I just have the 2. It's gonna be fine. 1 teacupful of breadcrumbs, some salt, pepper, and mustard. I have a feeling this is going to be absolutely delicious. So, let's get cooking. Okay, so I've got all my ingredients laid out. I just chopped off the end of the Wartime loaf. We've got our 2 ounces of cheese, half a pint of milk, our 2 eggs, salt and pepper, and some mustard. Now, a little behind the scenes, I'm actually filming this after the lunch recipe, which is what you're about to see. And I'm using mustard in that recipe too, so I'll talk a little bit more about that then. So I'm just gonna grate the bread so we get our breadcrumbs. Now this is more of a mugful than a teacupful. I was just guesstimating. Now I'm just gonna grate the cheese. And I'm just gonna give my eggs a little bit of a whisk. Next, we have to bring the milk to a boil. Okay, that milk has just come up to the boil, so now we have to turn off the heat, add our breadcrumbs, give this a mix. Smells bready. Next, we're supposed to add the cheese. So 2 ounces going in there now. Probably about a teaspoon of salt, some pepper, probably just over a teaspoon worth of mustard. And last but not least, our eggs. Make sure that's all combined very well. We're just gonna pour it into our oven tray. And then it just says bake or grill until brown. So my oven is currently on 180 and I'll just keep an eye on it until it's done. Okay, so I ended up letting it bake for about 23-24 minutes at 180. It smells really good. All right, let's give this a test. That's quite nice. It's very savory, the complete opposite to our treacle on toast. I do wish I would have dialed up the mustard a little bit though. Texturally, it's soft and squishy like a pudding with a little bit of a crunchy top. I mean, it's basically just bread and cheese pudding, isn't it? As a standalone dish, it's okay. I would like to add some freshness to this. Tomatoes on this dish would be super yum, but serving this alongside a simple salad would probably be the best way to go. Would I make it again? Possibly. It took no time at all to make, and you could easily bulk up the ingredients if you wanted to serve it to a larger family. But yes, for me personally, I think I'll easily get 3 breakfasts out of this. Now it's time to cook my lunches for the week, and I've got this big old sack of potatoes that I need to use up. It's a 2-kilo bag, and I've been trying to think of a way to use them which doesn't involve mashing them up and sticking them into something. Now, while that is a good gap filler and helps to extend your food, sometimes one just gets a little bit tired of having mashed potato all the time.
And we're not having hot mush today. Yeah! We're having cold mush.
So, while flicking through ye olde favourite,
Food facts for the kitchen front.
I came across a recipe for baked stuffed potatoes, which I thought sounded really interesting. And while that kind of contradicts everything I just said about putting mashed potatoes into everything, I thought this would be a really great way to use up all of my potatoes for quick grab-and-go lunches throughout the week. Now, of course, you can stuff them however you would like, but they do provide 3 options for you. Number 1, equal quantities of cooked shredded cabbage, diced carrot and turnip, bound with white sauce and flavoured with a dash of piquant sauce. Who you calling a piquant? But what's you? Number 2, roughly chopped dry fried sprats bound with mustard sauce. That sounds delicious. Number 3, shredded raw cabbage and chopped parsley bound with mayonnaise. I think the sprat stuffing with mustard sauce sounds exactly like the bold flavour that I feel like right now. So we're going with option number 2. Now I couldn't actually find any sprats, so I opted to get the cheapest next best thing, which was tinned sardines. Now I have 4 little tins. They're 110 grams each, which means combined they're slightly under a pound. Now I've consulted the Oracle, and a pound of tinned sardines would have cost me 16 of my monthly points back in 1941. However, once we reach October 1944, they level out and they're only 10 points for a pound. From that point onwards, all the way to 1949. So we're just going to pretend like it's October 1944. Now I actually haven't used any of my monthly points yet in July. The average was 24 points a month, but I'm giving myself 20, so I'm blowing half of my monthly points on a pound of sardines. Now for anyone that's interested, this document here was published by the Ministry of Food in 1949, and it pretty much documents everything you could possibly want to know about rationing and the point system between 1940 and 1949, and how everything fluctuated throughout those years. This only covers up to 1949, when rationing continued up to 1954. So if anyone's interested in having a look at this, I got this from Carolyn's amazing blog, the1940sexperiment.com, and I'll link it below for you. So we're actually going to start by making our mustard sauce, which is going to bind everything together. For this recipe, you will need half a pint of milk, or milk and vegetable stock, 1 ounce of flour, 1 ounce of margarine or clarified fat, some seasoning. That's just a standard recipe for a simple white sauce, but to make it a mustard sauce, it advises to add 1 teaspoon of dry mustard with the flour. I don't currently have any dry mustard, but I still have this jar of Dijon, which was part of my original Kickstarter pantry from the beginning of the year. It's still half full, so we're just going to use that. Now I'll also be using a pound of sardines in oil, and I've already baked 2 kilos worth of potatoes, because as always, I'm going to be bulk cooking and I want this to serve as my lunch for the next week, and I am doubling the sauce recipe. So let's get cooking. Okay, first we're going to melt our margarine. So that was just 2 ounces. Next we're going to add 2 ounces of flour. I'm just using whole milk. And you basically just want to cook that for a minute or 2. Now I've got a pint of milk, and this was made using the last of my milk powder. I bought a 1 kilo bag at the beginning of the year. I've officially come to the end of it. So we're mid-July now, that's 29 weeks, which means I've been using approximately 34 grams of milk powder every week. Not that I did use it every week. All right, I'm just going to add a little bit of this now, just to help get this going. I'm going to switch to my whisk, start blending this all together. Alright, I think it's safe to add the rest. Damn it, I spilled some. Start bringing this together on a medium-low heat. Just want to make sure you get all the lumps out. Just going to add some seasoning, so about a teaspoon of salt, some pepper, and some mustard. Now we may as well go for this because I really do enjoy a good mustard sauce. We'll start with about 1.5 teaspoons and see how we go. It's thickening up quite nicely. It smells good. Let's give this a bit of a taste test. Alright guys, I'm going in hard with the mustard here. So at this stage I've probably added about 2 tablespoons worth. Just turn the heat up because this is close to ready now. That took no time at all. Testing for mustard. Oh, that is absolutely beautiful. So about 2 tablespoons of Dijon was the magic amount. So when it comes to the actual potatoes, I just washed them, put them on a tray, and then poked them with a fork so the steam could escape. Then whacked them in a hot oven for about 45 minutes to an hour until they were done. Now, as you can see, my potatoes are quite small. This recipe would definitely work better with larger potatoes, and it would certainly be a lot less finicky than it's about to be. So what we have to do is cut them in half and then scoop out the middle, just so they're kind of hollowed out. So once these are all done, we're going to mix all the potato filling with our mustard sauce and the sardines, and then we're gonna stuff it back into the potatoes. So as you can see, I have my work cut out for me at the moment. Okay, so I've hollowed out all of the potatoes and I just gave the filling a little bit of a mash. One more step and then we can start combining everything together. Now, to be honest, I don't know if this step is necessary because I'm using tinned sardines in oil, but we're just gonna give them a quick pan fry anyway because I would like to get a bit of crunch on them if possible. Wow, the smell of these is intense. I think my apartment's gonna need a priest to come around to exorcise the smell of fish from it after cooking these. I cast you out! Just wanna smash these up a little bit. Now I'm definitely going to drain these and save that precious oil because it's gonna be packed full of so much flavor. And I have an idea of how I'm going to use it in next week's episode. Now that I think about it, I probably shouldn't have just tipped the whole tin in and just saved as much of the oil in the tin as I could. It's done now. I actually rarely ever eat sardines. All right, that'll do. I've just gave them a pan fry for about 5 minutes. Now I want to try and conserve some of this oil. So I'm just gonna try and push most of the oil out. I really should have thought ahead with this one. Would have saved me an extra step. And I'm just gonna start putting the drained sardines into the mashed potato. So I've probably managed to save about a tablespoon worth, but this is an absolute flavor bomb. And this will keep well in the fridge until I'm ready to use it. All right, last step. So I'm just gonna combine the sardines with the potato filling. Now we can start adding our mustard sauce. I don't want to add all of it. I do want to reserve a little bit. All right, so just gonna mix all of this through now. I wish you could smell this, it's incredible. All right, now the aim of the game is to stuff the potatoes. Let's get a spoonful there. Another spoonful there, and then pop them back together. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get the rest of these done, and I'll see you in a moment. I think these turned out great. So I just chopped up half a Savoy cabbage, and this is why I wanted to reserve some of the mustard sauce. Even though this is my lunches, I need to try some now. So this is my lunch for the week, and I honestly cannot wait to try these. So let's taste test. So there we go. I'm just gonna bite right into it. Let's go. Oh, holy crap balls, you guys. This is freaking amazing. Magnifique. Can't stop eating it. Go and make them. You won't regret it. The sardines with the mustard sauce, they're two really bold flavors, but because the potatoes mix through it, it really helps to balance it out. That is absolutely delicious. 100% will make again. All right, it's dinner time, but I'm in a little bit of a predicament this week because at the time that I'm recording this, I'm still working my way through that amazing sausage dumpling soup that we made last week. And at this point, I feel like I am part dumpling. So I don't actually need to cook dinner, and I just don't have quite enough time to film a dinner recipe in the coming days. It might not seem like it, but some of these recipes take hours to film. But never fear, I've got you covered. Remember how I said that back in January, I literally filmed everything? So the other day I was rummaging around some of the older footage and actually came across a few recipes that I thought, you know what, with a bit of hard work and elbow grease, I could probably stitch something half decent together. So given I don't need to cook dinner at the moment and don't have the time, I decided to include a recipe that I filmed on Sunday, the 28th of January. So just coming up to the end of my first full month of rationing. That truly feels like a lifetime ago now. Anyways, I hope you enjoy. Now it's time to cook, and I have this big old cauliflower here, and I thought we could make a delicious side dish with it. I'm just really craving some baked cauliflower at the moment, so I thought that would be a lovely side to go with our main dish. Would love to put some cheese on it, but alas, we don't have any. So today's recipe, once again, comes from this book here.
Food facts for the kitchen front.
So the recipe calls for 2 small cauliflowers. I just have the one. It's going to be fine. 2 tablespoons of breadcrumbs, wheatmeal of course. I've got some browning in the oven as we speak. 1 gill of milk. Gill? The fuck is a gill? I mean, obviously it's a term for some kind of unit of measure, but how many mils in a gill? Does it say? How many mils in a gill? How many mils in a gill? How many mil in a gill?
How many mils in a gill? How many mils in a gill? How many mils in a gill? How many mils in a gill? How many mils in a gill?
Marguerite Patton, OBE, to the rescue. I thought I remembered reading this somewhere.
The term GILL was used in some recipes. This was very popular until after the Second World War, when it was no longer used because it seemed to cause confusion.
Honey, when you're right, you're right. So she goes on to say that 1 gill equals 1/4 of a pint, or 150 mil. So there you have it. 150 mil in a gill. So back to the original recipe. So 2 small cauliflowers, 2 tablespoons of breadcrumbs,
1 gill of milk,
a teaspoon of vegetable extract. I think we'll just use some promine in this case. 1 ounce of dripping or cooking fat, and 1.5 ounces of flour. So let's get cooking. So I've just chopped and rinsed the cauliflower, and I've just added it to a pot with some salted water. It's not completely full, it's only up to about there. We're actually going to be using that water to make a white sauce afterwards. So we're just going to cover this up and let it cook for about 10 minutes or so, just until it starts to soften up, because we still have to bake it. I have browned off my breadcrumbs, they're good to go. Okay, so I cooked the cauliflower for about 7 minutes, and it's time to start making the white sauce. So we're going to chuck in 1 ounce of margarine, get that melting. I've reserved the water that the cauliflower was cooking in. We need 2 gills of this, which is 300 ml for the white sauce. Then I'm just going to add 1.5 ounces of flour, so this is just wholemeal. A bit of a stir, cook it up a bit. So it calls for 1 gill of milk. I've already pre-mixed some of the milk powder. In fact, I'm 100 mils over the gill, but we're not going to waste it. So just going to chuck in a little bit there. Help get this going. It's lovely and thick. Chuck the rest of that in. So while that's going, I'm supposed to dissolve a teaspoon worth of vegetable extract. I'm just going to use Vegemite here because the jar is almost empty. So dissolve that into your cauliflower liquid and then add it to the sauce. I think I've got just about 1 teaspoon left here. We're okay to go.
Control, if you're reading me, I am okay to go. Okay to go.
Just going to dissolve that. Vegemite cauliflower water. This is actually going to give it a nice flavor. I think I need to get the whisk into this. Basically, we're just going to keep this on the stove until it thickens up. Also said to season very well, about 1/2 teaspoon worth of salt, some pepper. In terms of the oven temperature, once again, it doesn't say how high or for how long. It just says cook it in a hot oven until the top is nice and crisp. That's good. It smells like Vegemite, but it doesn't taste like Vegemite. That's really, really good. The sauce isn't quite as thick as I would like it, but that's my fault because I used that extra 100 ml of the powdered milk liquid. I'm hoping the cauliflower will absorb it when it's baking in the oven. It smells really, really good. Final taste test. That is glorious. All right, that'll do. So the recipe says to put it into a greased, fireproof dish. So I've just lightly greased this with a little bit of margarine. So I'm just going to whack in the cauliflower. So we've ended up with 2 cups of sauce here. Pour it over. Oh my God, this is gonna be so good. Yum! And then we just have to top it with some browned breadcrumbs. So I'm gonna give it a good coating. Probably won't use them all. This smells so good. I don't think this even needs cheese, to be honest. And now I'm just gonna chuck this in the oven. I've just pulled this out of the oven. I baked it at 180 degrees Celsius for about 15 minutes. And even though I still need to make the main component of my dinner tonight, I don't think I can wait that long. So we need to try this because it smells so good. All right, let's try this. Cooked perfectly, seasoned really well, and the crumb on top just gives it a slight little crunch. That is delicious. Oh my God. All right, no, put down the fork, Jake. So it's time to make the main component of my dinner for the next few nights. We're going to be making corned beef and beetroot pancakes. But I don't have any corned beef, so I'm just going to use some TVP instead. But before we crack on with that, we're going to be making a leafy green side with this gorgeous bouquet of vegetables here. Now, I do believe in the UK and the US, you guys call this chard. But here in Australia, we call this silver beet. Anyways, let's start cooking. Now, it personally drives me absolutely insane when I see people cooking with this and they get rid of all the stem and they only use the leafy part. It's like, stop, what are you doing? Basically, the only thing I have done to this is just chopped off the very ends here, and I'm going to separate the stalks from the leaves, give them a good rinse, and we're going to cook the stalks first before we cook the leaves. So I've just separated all the green leafy parts. I've washed these really well, and now I'm just going to chop them up nice and finely. So look how much we've been able to salvage. I just gave those another good rinse. Now they are quite fibrous, like a celery stalk, but even more so. They basically just need an extra 5 minutes or so to cook. So these have been cooking down now for a few minutes. They're starting to soften up. Now I know what I'm about to do might seem weird, but trust me on this one. This is my favorite way to cook silver beet. So first just add in some salt, some pepper, and this is where it gets weird. Next, we're going to add some milk. Yes, that's right, milk. So maybe about, I don't know, quarter of a cup. Give this a stir. Next, we are going to add some nutmeg. Trust me, this is so good. Not too much, about half a teaspoon. And we're just going to let this cook for a few minutes longer before we add the leaves. So these have been cooking down now for about 5 or 6 minutes. And now I'm just going to add the rest of the leafy greens. Wow, it's a miracle. I didn't spill anything. These really won't take long, so just a couple of minutes, just until they wilt down a little bit, and then it's ready. So they've wilted down quite significantly. They've only been in the pot for about 2 minutes, and that's as far as I want to take them. So these are done. So we're just gonna put this aside now and move on to our main component. So it's time to cook the pancakes. It's actually called panned corned beef and beetroot. Now it calls for 1 cup of chopped corned beef. I don't have any of that. So what I've done instead, I've cooked up a bunch of TVP in some beef stock and made it extra salty. We need 1.5 cups of cooked and diced potato. I already prepped those last night though, because I figured you didn't really need to see me cooked mashed potato, right? Some diced spring onions, some seasoning, salt and pepper, a cup of diced cooked beetroot. So I've already cooked that as well. I just simply peeled it, cubed it, and steamed it. The beetroot doesn't actually go in the pancake. It goes around it when you serve it up for some light decoration. And then once it's cooked, you top it with some grated apple or some horseradish sauce. I don't have any horseradish sauce, so we're going down the apple route today. So let's start putting these together. All right, so we've got the mashed potato. I just pulled that out of the fridge and fluffed it up a little bit. I'm just going to add the TVP, otherwise it would have been your corned beef. And I've just chopped up about 4 spring onions. Now I did taste the TVP and it's nice and salty. The potatoes aren't salted at all. Mix this all together. Oh, you know what? I might add some cayenne pepper. Yes! Okay, so that's all mixed thoroughly now, so I'm just going to heat up some oil in the pan and we are going to start frying these off. Now the recipe actually says to just make 1 big pancake essentially and let it cook for about 25 to 30 minutes. Given that everything is already cooked, I don't think that's necessary, so we're just gonna lightly pan fry these for, I don't know, 5-10 minutes.
I'll regret this forever.
Yeah, so little update. These are not staying together very well once they start heating up. When I tried to flip one, it just fell to pieces. What's happening is they're just getting stuck to the pan, even though I do have some fat in there. So what I think I'm going to do, I'm going to finish cooking these ones here. I'm just going to follow the instructions and I'm just going to make 1 big pancake and let it cook for 15-20 minutes. We're just gonna play it that way. Okay, so this is what the recipe originally said to do. And then once it's cooked, you're supposed, can you hear that? It's like they're screaming. And then once it's finished, you're supposed to add diced cooked beetroot around the rim. And then I guess from there, people would just come and help themselves. So it wasn't a total failure. I was able to also salvage these pancakes that I started before. I wanted to try and get them nice and crispy, but I just can't see that happening. Nonetheless, it still tastes really good, and I actually can't wait to try it with some beetroot and the shredded apple on top. So I'm just gonna let this cook now for, I don't know, another 10-15 minutes. So it is finished. This is how the recipe suggested to serve it. I ended up letting it cook for about 18 minutes. Didn't smell any burning, so that was okay. Call me crazy, but to me, this looks like something you would serve in the 70s, not the 40s. So here is the mini version that I've prepared myself. So it's the corned beef and potato pancake, surrounded by my own little ring of beetroot. We've got the baked cauliflower, which we made earlier on, as well as a side of silver beet with the stems. I am so freaking hungry. I cannot wait to tuck into this. Does it look the prettiest? No, it doesn't, but it's really simple, healthy ingredients, and it all tastes amazing. And that's the most important thing. Now that was back in the early days before I started doing taste tests on camera, but I was keeping a food diary at the time. And I actually got 7 dinners out of that, except for the cauliflower bake. I got 5 servings out of that. Now it was quite nice, and accompanied with the beetroot and the addition of the fresh grated apple on top, that really made it sing. But I would be interested to revisit that recipe and use actual corned beef and horseradish sauce on top. I think that would be really nice, but I'll probably save that for next year when I'm not bound by the actual constraints of living on rations, and I can revisit these wartime recipes with a little bit more freedom. But overall, it was pretty good. Now, if you took away the beetroot and the apple and just focused on the actual pancake itself, I feel like it's quite similar to the mince slices that we made back in the 1K celebration video. I'll link that down below in case you're interested. And again, without factoring in the beetroot and the fresh apple, I think I'd say I prefer the mince slices if I had to choose. But again, it really just depends on what you pair it with. So let's break down some costs. So when it comes to the bread, we've worked out that it costs just $1.92 to make 2 loaves, which here in Australia is fabulous. So I typically get through 1 a week, but not always, and I just pop the other in the freezer until I'm ready to have it. Now I'm also including some currency conversions just so you can get a better idea of what we're dealing with here in Australia at the moment. Now that's not to say that if you made any of these dishes, that's how much it would cost you. I'm fairly certain that when it comes to fresh produce in the UK and the US, your fresh produce is far cheaper. Exhibit A for the parsley honey. This cost me $7.04 to make. Now I live in a small apartment and I have a teeny tiny balcony, but I probably could grow some basic herbs, especially parsley. It's the easiest thing to grow in the world. However, I had to purchase 2 bunches of it to make that honey, and that cost me $6. The cheese pudding was quite economical, coming in at a total of $3.58, which I think is pretty reasonable, especially considering I got 3 breakfasts out of that. That one really grew on me. By the end of it, I was definitely wanting more. We'll make again. The baked sprout potatoes came in at a total cost of $15.67. Now there were a couple of high ticket items in this one, with the sardines being the most expensive ingredient, coming in at $6.76 for just under £1. I'm still working my way through them, and I will easily get a whole week's worth of lunches out of those. When it comes to the dinner, we priced it out at current day costs in July, even though I made it back in January. The cauliflower bake, if I'd made it today, would have cost me a total of $4.06. And believe it or not, that simple silver beet recipe was even more expensive, coming in at $5.10. $4.70 for 1 bunch of silver beet. And last but certainly not least, we have the corned beef and beetroot pancakes coming in at a total of $12.18, which is not too bad considering I got 7 dinners out of it. So the grand total of everything that we made in today's video came to $49.59. Now there were a couple of extra recipes in there, but I think that's a pretty standard amount of food for 1 person for 1 week. What a week! I don't know about you guys, but I am freaking exhausted. All I can think about right now is making a lovely cup of tea, plonking on the couch, and zoning out to a nice, happy, relaxing, uplifting film. I'm just kidding. Don't watch that film. I mean, it's an incredible film, but it's very dark and it will break your heart over and over again. I'm sure anyone that's seen that film can attest that it sticks with you forever. I just put that in there as a little gag for my brothers. What I'm probably going to watch is Pride and Prejudice for the 17th time. And to clarify, I mean the 1995 BBC version with Jennifer Ehle and Colin Firth. There is no other version. Try and change my mind. Anyways, if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And thank you again for all of your wonderful comments. I love reading them all. Some of them are so funny. And to be honest, it's probably one of my favorite aspects of creating content for YouTube, getting to engage with you all like that, because otherwise it's just me standing alone in my kitchen conversation talking to myself on camera. So thanks again, everyone. Love you all. Mwah. And until next time.
Keep calm and remember, there's 150 mil in a GILL.
That's all.